or say anything. I just was gonna, so I'm just calling you up. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring Libby Moore to the stage. I so much so didn't even have an opening. So I'm proving to you, I had nothing planned. Why don't we take the microphone out? And Libby and I are actually going to talk for this one. I've only done 2 other conversations in the Legacy shows. One with Sierra Bogus and one with Doug Barron, and now I'm going to do this with Libby. And we talked on the phone the other day, and we said, you know what? Let's just talk. But I want to start by telling my story on how you're here. So it's awesome that I've got Denise, Tammy, and Libby here. It's awesome that you're here too, Mark, but it's awesome. Don't want you to feel left out. It's awesome that I have the 3 of them here. Tammy has spoken before. If you actually want to learn more about just Tammy, and she's the first, she did this. I don't remember which show it was. Do you remember which number show it was?
Last year.
It was last year. But Tammy Tibbetts, Legacy of You, you'll find her story. But what happened was I was looking for more role models for the show. And I reached out to Robin and Tammy, and I said, do you know someone? And they both recommended Denise to me. And so I reached out to Denise, and one day, where's Denise? Just right here. No, there you go. And one day, we got on the phone together. This is the first time we ever met, was today. Which I feel like I've known Denise.
Crazy woman. You've been on my stairs.
Yeah, I was sitting on your stairs. I'm a stair sitter. But we talked on the phone, and Denise was like, hey, you know what, I can't do any of the upcoming shows. I can't remember what you were doing, but you were unable to do it. But you said, you know, to hear more of my stuff, why don't you listen to the podcast? And up to that point, I'm pretty certain I've never listened to a podcast, ever, because my attention span is, what's going on today? Right, that's my attention span. It goes that quickly. So Lauren and I flew to Portugal, and we were in between... Chile. Different places. This is why I need her in my life. They say surround yourself with people smarter than you.
We went to Portugal as well.
We went to Portugal as well, but that was another year?
Yes.
Not the same year. Alright, we went to Chile, and this is why I just follow her. Whenever people are like, well, how'd you pick that place to go? I'm like, I follow her. So we were in Chile, and we were in the hotel between landing from America before we went to Easter Island, and I said, hey, I met this really awesome woman on the phone, Denise. She recommended I listen to a podcast. And you have how many podcasts now?
Now 50-some, but then it was maybe 35.
So back then it was like 35. And I said, can you just recommend one of your podcasts to listen to? Because I have an attention span of a flea. And she recommends Libby's podcast. And I'm going to admit this, whether it embarrasses you or not. I was sitting in the bathtub listening to the podcast. I don't know why, but I was. And it was at the Holiday Inn at Santiago Chile Airport. And I asked Lauren, like, you want to listen? And she surprisingly was like, yeah, sure. Which I was even surprised that you wanted to listen, because neither of us listen to podcasts. And halfway through the podcast, I go, I don't know why, but Libby and I are going to be sitting in the same room very soon. I don't know why, I don't know if we're going to do something, and it's just gonna happen. And so one day, I don't even know how Denise connected us, but it just happened where I go, I want to, looking for some more role models, and Denise recommended you. She connected us, and in like a week, you were sitting in my office. And now you're here.
I love that.
And it was just, it was awesome, right? It was just this, and it felt right. Like, you were like, I was expecting to be like, yeah, let's hop on a call. You're like, oh, I'll come to your office. I'm like, okay, so come to the office. So I just want to premise this story of, that's sort of how this conversation is going to go too. And so, what's interesting about Libby is she is a life coach, which there's a lot of life coaches out there now if you just look at your Facebook page, right? But I knew there was something special about Libby after I listened to Denise's podcast. And today's theme is Reinvention, and it even worked. I booked this date. I said, it's got to be Reinvention. I called you up. You picked up. And I said, it's about Reinvention. Can you do it? And you were like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Here we are. We have no idea what we're talking about right now, by the way. I mean, we know, but there's nothing planned. Like I said, don't tell me what you're going to ask me. Let's just go with the flow, because that's what we like to do. So, and by the way, when we did meet in his office, I thought, I'll schedule it for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. We talked for 2.5 hours. So God help us that we got through 18 minutes. I think we're at 15 right now.
I forgot to put the timer on, so.
Okay, good.
But anyways, one of the really remarkable things about you is just your journey in life in general. And let's start where, like, you already know that people are fascinated with your journey as well. One of the interesting, there's many interesting things, but one of the neat things about you on this Reinvention show is, what was your former career?
So, formerly I was Oprah's chief of staff for 11 years. I always feel weird saying that because it was actually 10 years and 9 months. You know what I mean? And do you round it up? I don't know. So, but people say 11 years. And prior to that, I worked at Rolling Stone as an executive assistant to Jan Wenner, the founder and publisher of Rolling Stone, for 4 years. And before that was Maury Kovich's personal assistant for 3 years. That was my first job in New York City.
So Maury Kovic, Rolling Stones, down to Oprah.
Oprah, yeah.
So how did that happen? How did you end up on that path? How did you get there?
The super short version was living in Boulder, Colorado. I'm a modern day gypsy tour. I'm a modern day gypsy, hence the name Libby Moore Gypsy Tour, which is my Instagram. And I moved to New York because I wanted to write for Saturday Night Live. I ended up getting a job as Maury Kovich's personal assistant about a month after I got here, which at the time it was like 91, and the term personal assistant was not big at the time. It was like, that sounds like you get like a sponge bath or something. Now it's very common, but at the time I was like, what is a personal assistant? I don't know what that is. And I failed typing in college, no lie. So it was slightly challenging, but he was amazing. He truly, he and his wife took care of me like I was their daughter, and I stayed working with him for 3 years. And I was doing stand-up comedy, and I was in a little sketch comedy group and did improv at Gotham City Improv and stuff like that, thinking, I'm gonna write for Saturday Night Live. And this is just my day job to pay my rent and bills and stuff like that. But from Maury, I ended up getting some job at the USA Network as an associate producer. I was horrible, I got fired, and then I called my friends and was like, does anybody need a housekeeper? I'm really good at cleaning houses. So then literally I did odd jobs and cleaned houses for a couple months. And then I got this job at Rolling Stone, and I was the second assistant to Jan. So there was a first assistant, Mary McDonald, and then myself. And I was with Jan for 4 years. And then I interviewed with the head writer at Saturday Night Live and walked out of there going, I'm never going to get this job at Saturday Night Live. I have no writing experience. These are all like Ivy League guys, you know, really cliquey. And so I thought, well, I'll write for Rosie O'Donnell. Then I started sending writing submissions to Rosie O'Donnell, the head writer, while I was working at Rolling Stone. And I would tell everyone, 1 year from now, I'm going to be a writer for Rosie O'Donnell. And after 10 months of getting like 0 replies, I was going to work one day on the subway, and I said this prayer to God, Source, Allah, Jah, whatever you want to call it. I believe it's the same thing. I was like, okay, clearly you don't want me to have this job at Rosie O'Donnell, because you know how badly I want it. And so whatever it is you want me to do, every atom, cell, and molecule in my body, mind, soul, and spirit is open to it. Show me what it is, be really clear, shine a big fat spotlight on it, and I'll do it. Amen. And I just kind of release this intention, this prayer out to the universe. And, you know, because that's how I roll with the higher intelligence. We just have that kind of, you know, conversation. We're very intimate. And I think it was 5 weeks later to the day that I set that intention out there. An executive headhunter in Chicago reached out to someone in this networking group that I was in, that I'm still in actually, called New York Celebrity Assistants. And it's 100 assistants to very high profile people in New York in fashion, film, and finance. And it said, so it came out to the group and it said, executive recruiter in Chicago in search of chief of staff executive assistant to high profile person in Chicago. Responsibilities include, and we have like 150 responsibilities, no lie. And the first thing said coordinate private plane pilot aviation team. The second thing said coordinate hair and makeup team. And I thought, holy shit, that's Oprah Winfrey, because she can afford a private plane and hair and makeup on television. And I thought, I don't know if Jerry Springer and Jenny Jones can afford a private plane. No offense, but I just didn't think. So I thought, that is Oprah. And I knew, and I swear to you, I knew in that moment, I mean, it came to me like, this is the job for me, and that is why I did not get the job at Saturday Night Live or Rosie. It was so clear to me as I asked him. You know, I interviewed and got the job and stayed for 11 years. Yeah, changed talk about reinvention, y'all. It changed my life.
What changed? How did it change your life? Like, what was it? The way you said that was like,
Yeah.
boom,
Boom.
right? How did it change things?
Number one, I had only managed one person at that point in my life. I was 34 years old. I managed, when I was Maury's personal assistant, I managed his driver, who was like a friend of mine, his chauffeur, this woman, Amy. So I was walking into a job as Oprah's chief of staff, managing a team of 5 assistants, and you know, the aviation team and security and all this stuff. And I had no experience in that. But as Denise says, hell yeah. I was like, hell yeah, okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm just gonna go for it. And I just went for it and learned, you know, as I went, and made a ton of mistakes. In particular, did I finish the question?
Sure.
I could go on for like 5 years
Well,
talking about how it changed my
Then,
life.
with that being said, then, because again, Denise said it, you said it,
Yeah.
like, yeah, hell yeah, you know,
Yeah.
and that's and every time I go to do something and I go to ask someone for advice, they just fucking figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So then, how did the interview process for that work? What made them go, yeah, this is the person, she's totally underqualified, you know? So how did that happen then?
That's so funny. So yeah, no, it's funny because I have to back up a little. So because my message and what I love sharing is like, when you tap into this, I always go like this, when you tap into this higher intelligence, this power source, this higher vibration, and again, whether you call it God, source, divine, or you say, I don't believe in any of that, I think it's me, my decisions, and that's it. Well, we all know that we have intelligent decisions and bad decisions as human beings. Higher self, lower self. So if you call it your higher self, when you're tapped into your higher self, that is where the magic happens. So my mom, when I was sending writing submissions to the Rosie O'Donnell show, and that no one was replying, and I was FedExing down a block from Rolling Stone, literally, to NBC, and like FedEx, and like no one would reply for 10 months. So my mom had said 6 months before I got the Oprah job, Elizabeth, why don't you just send your resume to Oprah? Because her magazine came out on my birthday, by the way. April 17th, 2000 was the premiere issue of her magazine. That is my birthday.
Wow.
And I believe in synchronicity of numbers and dates and stuff like that. And so a month after her magazine came out, my mom said, why don't you just send your resume? Because you love her show, you love the magazine, you know, you have great experience in talk show experience and magazine publishing. And my response was, Mom, first of all, like, whoever is Oprah's assistant, why would they ever leave that job? Okay, that's what I said. And 2, you know, my girlfriend's in New York. I had just come out when I was 27 and knew I was gay my whole life, came out at 27. Hello, I'm living in the West Village in New York City. And I was 34 at the time. So I was just like, my girlfriend's here, I'm gonna move, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I always say I blew off source. I blew off the divine and God speaking through my mother, because that's how it comes to us. I was like, psh, what do you know, you know? But the truth was, had I sent my resume then, I would have gotten that job 6 months earlier. To answer your question, we have this thing where it's hard for us to stay on track. So, to answer your question, Michael, the recruiter called me. I faxed my resume, literally, we faxed then. She called me, we had a great call. We did another call the next day. And then she said, can you talk to the president of Harpo and the director of HR? 5 days later, talked to them, went really well. They said, Oprah's going to be in town for work next week. Can you meet her for drinks? Yeah, hell yeah, as Denise would say. And then I met Tim Bennett, who's the president of Harpo, and Oprah at a hotel here in New York. And basically we talked for 40 minutes. And at the end of this 40 minutes, she said, so what's your plan? And I said, what do you mean, what's my plan? She said, your plan for your life. And I was thinking, I said, I'm thinking, I don't have a plan for my life. But I said, well, my plan was that I was going to write for Rosie O'Donnell, and I've been sending submissions there for 10 months, and no one was responding. So I said this prayer on the subway, like, okay, God, if you want me to do it, that's what I'm going to do, and make it really clear, and here I am. And then 5 weeks later, then I got this email from this recruiter, and here I am sitting with you having a glass of Chardonnay at the whatever hotel. So
You're telling her all this.
oh yeah, this is honestly what I said, verbatim. I'm trying to.
You're not thinking this. You're saying
I was
this.
just saying it, and oh yeah, I'm being myself, right? And I'm making it short, by the way, because I think we have 3 minutes left. But basically, I said all that, and I go, and I said this prayer, and then here I am sitting here with you having some Chardonnay. So if you leave this interview and you feel like she's the right one for the job, then I would be honored to take it because it matches my 7 years of experience as an executive assistant with, what you're doing, and what you're doing in the world is what I believe in, helping women and girls throughout the world. And I'm so passionate about that. And so I would love to take this job. But if you feel like she's a nice person, but she's not the right one for the job, that's okay too. Because if that's the case, and I believe that there is a better, more appropriate fit for you coming, like right around the corner, and if this isn't what God has planned for me, I can't wait to see what's next. And I really meant that. I mean, it really came from my heart. And we just held eye contact like this for like 1001, 1002, and she just said, okay, Tim, let's bring her to Chicago. And that is the truth. And I do want to say, it wasn't like, oh, I'm hired. I mean, Tim, the president of Harper, was like, whoa, 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 like she could be an axe murderer, like, let's just slow it down, so I went to Chicago and I went to a series of interviews and stuff like that and got the job. But I do want to say, before I went into the interview, into the bar at the hotel to meet Oprah and Tim, I had gotten there early and I found this place in the corner of the lobby, and I just got aligned and did my 3 deep breaths and slow exhales, which will change your life, by the way. It takes about 3.5 seconds. And it is the bridge between chaos and calm. It's the bridge between, oh my God, I hope I get this interview, to I'm just gonna be myself. It's 3 deep breaths and slow exhale. The Navy SEALs do 4, by the way. Google it, swear to God. So I said this intention, got aligned, little meditation, wow, I'm about to meet Oprah Winfrey. This is unbelievable. I failed typing in college. I was a very average student in high school and college. My parents were worried about me, no lie. But I just got really aligned and said, if this is the job for me, make it clear to her and to me. And if this isn't the job for me, thank you for this opportunity. This is incredible. Thank you. Meaning, I'm aligned with a higher intention. I understand that even if this doesn't work out, wow, how did I end up being in this seat? I can't wait to see. So I said, help me to be 100% calm, cool, and confident. Help me flow through every atom, cell, and molecule in my body, mind, soul, and spirit, and help me to be calm, cool, and confident. I just went in, and that little millisecond of getting in alignment helped me to be super comfortable in my skin. And that's why I believe when she said, what's your plan? And I was like, here's the last 12 weeks of my life. Just kind of came out. And so, I felt wildly confident. It's weird.
And it sounds like you're talking about, even you telling the story about submitting to Rosie O'Donnell, submitting to Saturday Night Live, even when you're saying the word sitting here now, it sounds like there was a resistance even in talking about it. So how did you know, what was that sense? How does someone follow that sense of this is right? Everything else was working way too hard for this. And you said something to me, actually, when you came to my office about resisting. I can't remember what it was, but you said something about it was about working so hard and trying so hard, and that is a resistance against what the natural flow is. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
So, for example, because I think our stories are the best example. I wanted to work for Saturday Night Live so badly. I moved to New York. I'm like, I was very I was like, oh, I'm gonna be writing for Saturday Night Live. Like, you don't know me then, do you know anyone there? And you're like hooking up, doing that. And then I would get these nibbles, but it never happened. And then with the Rosie thing, once I did get the interview, I walked out of there energetically knowing there's no way I'm gonna work here. I didn't even have the material to show, oh, what am I thinking? So then I thought, oh, Rosie, I'll write for Rosie. She's gay, I'm gay. She respects older people and kids. I respect older people. You know, all that stuff that you do. And she's funny and I'm funny and I think I could write for her. But again, I was so laser focused on it and was networking and doing everything. And people were like, oh yeah, I'll get you an interview there, and then it would fall through. Oh yeah, I'll hook you up. So meaning you do what you want to do, you start going for it, and you do your best. But if you keep hitting walls, it's saying that you're not headed in the right direction. So when I work with people individually now, executive coaching, leadership coaching, personal coaching, on and on. It's all the same thing at the core, by the way. And you do the best that you can do, and some people might be on their path and then they go, oh my God, there's this huge obstacle. You know, I can't believe it's ruined. It's like, no, it's not a boulder, it's a pebble. It's a stone leading you in a different direction. There's something better for you waiting, and you're supposed to follow what feels good. It makes you feel alive and vibrant.
And so it's sort of what we were talking about with Denise, is that watershed moment. It's that moment of just like, I've got to go one way or another.
Yeah.
I know I can't keep hitting the same wall,
Right.
Or it hurts. So you flow in that direction, and then you ended up, and you even said, it's felt right, everything seemed synchronized for you to go, to the point that you were just truly yourself, talking to Tim and Oprah in that moment, and it worked, right? Because it was the right fit for the right time.
Right.
So now you're in the job itself, and 11 years later, and you even said at the beginning here, you said, why would someone leave that job?
Yeah.
Actually, did you replace, was it a new position, or did you actually replace someone who had moved up?
I replaced someone who moved on.
So then, in the nicest way of saying it.
Yeah.
But then you moved on in your way too. So what had you, we're here talking about reinvention, say, what's next? What was that point? Was it a day? Was it a moment? Was it over time?
Yeah.
To go, what do I just worked with the most powerful human being, one of the most powerful human beings, literally in the world, and I'm going to move on. So there was something in you that said, time to flow in a different direction. Right?
Yeah.
What was that?
So why don't I want to back up and say you're absolutely right as far as Oprah being one of the most powerful women, and the funniest and smartest and kindest and most generous. I mean, truly, after that, I was like, I'm done. Like, I've been to the mountaintop. Who am I going to work with now? I mean, really, she is so unbelievable. And because people love asking, is she really like she is on TV? Like, yes, and funnier and smarter and da-da-da. She's amazing. So the reason why I moved on is because she was ending the show, and she gave a 2-year announcement before the show ended, a full 25 years of the Oprah show. And at that point, I had been in for 9 years, and I was burnt. I mean, I was burnt out. I had been through 3 relationships since I was in that job. It was 24/7. I traveled a lot with her, which was amazing. It's incredible opportunities. But I would get up at 5 and go to bed at midnight, and I was burnt. I just remember thinking, this is unsustainable. I did not have any work-life balance. I didn't know how to do that at the time. And I remember the first time, backing up a little bit, we went to South Africa in 2002. She did Christmas kindness, and we went there for a month, and we traveled all over South Africa, and she gave like a Christmas to these kids that had never had Christmases and all this. And I was so excited. And then she and Nelson Mandela decided to build a school there, which she ended up doing on her own, but she built the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And so we would go back for meetings. So I went to South Africa with her 24 times in 8 years. And I remember like the first trip, the second trip, the third trip, the fourth trip, like, oh my God, I get to go to South Africa. And I remember having this thought one day, which was, if I ever don't feel excited about going to South Africa or some other big trip like that, it is time for me to leave this job and pass the torch to someone who will relish every minute of it, you know? The moment that I don't, it's not about not appreciating it, it's feeling like, you know? And I got to that point, I was just like, oh my God, I can't, like kind of like, oh, I hope this trip gets canceled because of this, you know, and if you're wishing and sending that vibe out, then you need to move on. Like that seat is too precious and valuable to have someone that isn't all in, and you need a lot of energy to be all in, and I maxed it out. So when she announced to herself that she was ending the show and, you know, launching the network, the Oprah Winfrey Network, I'd said at that point, look, I'm with you, I'll help you transition, blah, blah, blah. And but once you feel settled, I need to move on, and I want to stay in your Oprah universe in some capacity because I adore her and what she's doing in the world. But if we can't agree on what that role is, then that just, to me, is the universe saying, okay, you need to go out and share this experience in another way. And I go, I don't want to move on, but you know, and she was like, okay, we've got 2 years, let's figure it out. And honestly, over 2 years, we never could really, she was very generous in what she offered, and I suggested some stuff, but we never really like, you know, it's not even talking out of turn, just be very honest about it, that we couldn't agree on what that role was. So I was like, okay, I think I'm supposed to move on. And I helped like launch Super Soul Sunday on our network with a team of people that created that show, and that was incredible. And then January 1st, 2011, I left, and I thought, I'm gonna take a year off and do the Libby Moore Gypsy Tour. I called it the Libby Moore Gypsy Tour because I thought, well, Stevie Nicks has one, why can't I? You know? Say yes to life. More and tour rhymes, how lucky am I could do the Libby Moore, I don't know, unicorn tour. I could just change it every year. But anyway. Yeah.
First off, I'm excited when my stuff gives me 2 weeks notice. You get 2 years notice.
2 years. I should really get into world records. But I really wanted to stay, you know, and I'm sharing that to say, you know, now it's, by the way, it's been 5.5 years since I left, and I love my life now.
So, what is life like now? Yeah. And what was the Gypsy? Actually, talk about the Gypsy Tour. So you left, and what made you decide to go on this Gypsy Tour, and what did it consist of?
So about a year before I left, my partner at the time said, if you found out you were like terminally ill, what would you do? And I was like, I would give notice, a proper notice, I would leave my job, and I would travel around the country and reconnect with family and friends, and like reconnect with my life, because I really just left my personal life and was all in on this life. And then I started thinking about it. I thought, why do I need to get sick before I do that? Because I'm really like, you know, I was really like, and so that's what I did for a year. Is I just thought, I'm gonna go for it. And I took a year, and my partner and I ended up moving out to Santa Monica, where we helped launch Super Soul Sunday. Then we did a road trip up the West Coast. We ended up renting a cottage in Seattle on a land that's like the size of the stage. It was awesome. And then we moved back to LA, and I went to see a faith healer in Brazil, John of God, and like did all these, like went to the Omega Institute in upstate New York and did a lot of holistic stuff. And just really reconnected with my family and sisters and brother and their families, and got to know myself. I got to sit in my pajamas for 3 days and meditate and journal, and you know, just go to bed when my body was tired and get up. I mean, it was just, I just reconnected with myself really.
And how long was the Gypsy Tour?
Specifically, it was a year. I said it's 365 days of following my heart. So whatever my heart said, yes, I did it. And if it's like, I don't know, I just thought, okay, I'm not going to do it then.
But it was a decision. You made a decision. 365 days.
Yeah.
Right. 21-day challenge, 30-day challenge.
Yeah.
You gave yourself a 361-day challenge.
Yeah.
Was it hard at first? Was it
Never.
hard? Never.
No. People that are like, I don't know what to do with my free time. I'm like, not me. Like, I am A-okay. Oh yeah.
So then what?
Yeah. Coffee on the couch for 4 hours. This is fun.
So then what's now? Because you are coaching, like you said, and when we even talked, you're like, well, I need to tell the common, world, coaching is the word, but what's life like now then? What are you doing now?
I do want to back up for one
Yeah.
second to say, when I told people I was taking a year to do this, a lot of people said, a lot of people said, you're crazy to leave Oprah. You asked that about like leaving USA Today and stuff. Most people said that. My partner was super supportive, and some of my friends were, because they got how just like burnt out I was, but most people thought I was crazy. Like, I didn't care. Like, I'm not even on Facebook or Twitter. I decided I don't want to be on. I'm on Instagram and I have a website. And I only launched my website because I did the interview with Denise for My Entering Moments. I'm like, God, this is really crazy if people hear this and they have no way of reaching me. So I guess I launched that website that I've had sitting there for a year now.
And I think the last time you posted on Instagram was May. It was like, yeah. But anyway, so I'm doing what's counteractive, because I'm in this experiment now. I'm using my life as an experiment. So I haven't read the news since July 6th of last year. I don't read the news. Yeah, I used to be like, I would be so embarrassed to say that. Now I'm like, hey, guess what? I do not read the news on a daily basis, because what I found is that most of it's a bunch of crap that you don't even know if it's real anyway. And I thought, I'm like, this is going to make me feel good. Like, how is this helping me? And so I did an experiment. I'm not going to read the news, and I found that the most important news stories come to me within 3 hours to 24 hours. I have not missed anything beyond 24 hours, and it comes organically. But that's like a whole another podcast. But I know, stay on track, Libby. You can do it. Keep going. I was like, there's no way I'm saying we're staying on time today.
I know. I need help. But anyway, so I took that year off, and the guy's like, people are gonna forget about you. Like, that's fine. Like, I'll open a bookstore or shine shoes. I don't care. Like, I've been to the mountaintop with Oprah. Like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do next. Like, I'm so, just open. And so that's where the coaching thing came in. And I thought, I've kind of been doing this since I was like 8 years old. People in my family, and then it became like girlfriends, and then I was like managing high-profile people's lives for 18 years. So I'm intuitive in that way, and I enjoy that. So I got my coaching certification, and then I was being asked to do speaking engagements. So I do that. I love that. And I'm open to creative collaborations so I know that there are creative collaborations coming my way that I'm not even aware of. And so I'm open to that. So I'm just open. Consulting.
We call it, like you said, you got the coaching certificate, you're coaching, but it sounds like you said, you are open to whatever comes your way if it feels right, I imagine. Because there's probably a lot of people that are like, oh, I have an idea. How do you know when to pick?
It's because it feels right. So when I was in that job, my girlfriend said to me once, like, well, what do you feel like right now? I told her something, and I said, what do you mean? She's like, how do you feel in your body? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean in my body? I was like, what are you talking about? That sounds crazy to me. She's like, well, you feel something in your body, like your throat tight or your tight. I'm like, I don't feel my body at all. Like, I'm just trying to bob above water, like survive every day. It was so intense, that job. There was so much responsibility. And P.S. I want to say, without the 5 assistants who are extraordinary that were on my team, I would have lasted 3 months. I mean, there's no way. Hello, I felt taken in college, right? So I would be the liaison with Oprah. We would connect, and then I would delegate and oversee stuff. But thank God I didn't have to execute. That's not my area of expertise. To this day, I don't know how to do a PowerPoint. When I do talks and people are like, send your PowerPoint, I'm like, PowerPoint? I just talk. Like, AV? I don't know what that stands for. I think it's a camera or something. I don't even know. People are like, seriously? I go, yeah. Anyway, see, I'm off track. You know what we're talking about right now.
I was actually thinking, I'm not sure where you're going.
I don't know. Wait, what's your
I'm okay with this.
Where am I? But I'm still reinventing, by the way, I want to say. I don't think that reinventing has to end. I'm a different person now than I was 3 months ago.
I think if you're not reinventing, you're dying, right? Everything's got to, it's always going to evolve one way or another, or you're not growing.
Right.
I think maybe dying is the wrong word, or a bit extreme, but you're not growing.
Right.
So, you made this major journey, right? You made major but everything was a choice. You chose to take the interview, you chose to just say what your plan was, you chose to go, because that was a change too. You went from New York to Chicago, right?
When I took the job, I moved from New York to Chicago. I was there for 11 years. Then we moved to Santa Monica, like 4 months.
And now you're back here again, right?
Yeah.
So, but everything is a choice that was in your control.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times I find talking to people who are seeking to make change that they're not wanting to take the control of that change. So, for the purpose of today, we could just keep going. I know, like this could literally be 2.5 hours of us, and that would just be chapter 1. But for the purposes of reinvention, and you, like you said, and I would love to hear more about how you're reinventing now, but for the purposes of sharing and leaning into that fear, and the V word being V here on stage, how does someone embrace, like that is a remarkable amount of courage, coming back to that word that came from the table over there. How do you embrace that courage? How would you support others, or how do you recommend to lean into that courage to make those cannonball-sized changes?
To me, I believe it is aligning with your higher self, whatever you want to call that. So whether you do that through meditation or prayer or journaling or walking or working out or swimming every morning, that's still a meditation. That's aligning. So therefore when you're aligned with that higher vibration, so to speak, it feels right to you. It felt right for me to move on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're using words that may not resonate with other people. Like you said, call it what you will.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day is whether you believe it's from another source or whether you believe it's just coming from within, it's a felt thing.
Yeah.
You know when something is right.
Correct.
I've never done this before at the show, but I just said, we're talking, we said we're not going to do this, so I'm going to ask the question. Does anyone in the audience actually have a question for Libby about reinvention, this journey, her time is over, anything? Yeah.
So the show's called Legacy of You. What do you think your legacy will be, and what does legacy mean to you?
So I'll just to repeat the question. Am I correct? Show's called Legacy, the Legacy Show, and you're asking her what does she believe her legacy is?
Yeah, and what does the word legacy mean to you?
Are you a plant? Because that's such a good question. Is that your life? Oh my God.
No, my wife's over there.
Okay. You can't see anything.
That is Amber, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Amber.
Okay.
Amber has a similar show to this, but it's
Nice.
filmed.
That's such a good question. Well, to me, legacy is it's what you leave behind. It's the memory of you and what you leave behind after you pass, after you die. And for me, that's such a good question. I've never thought about it. What I would like my legacy to be is that when we were I'm assuming I'm talking like a person after I've died. When we were with Libby, she always made us feel better about ourselves. She reflected back to us the best parts of ourselves. That's what I would like my legacy to be. I love helping people reconnect, because it never leaves you, to the best parts of yourself. So when people are like, oh, you're so funny, or you're so whatever, fill in the blank, what I'm really doing is reflecting back to you the best parts of yourself. That's what I would like my legacy to be. Thank you.
And you've got to be willing to live the best part of yourself, which might mean making choices again.
We're always at a fork in the road all day long. You get to choose. Am I going to default and go to the left, which is usually about fear, or am I going to make a choice to do something different? It feels uncomfortable. I'm going to go this way and go for it and see what's down the road.
And that's what I was saying in the beginning. You don't have to reinvent your life, but you can reinvent the moment that you're about to engage in.
Yes.
And that's making that decision. Yeah. Any other questions that came to mind right over here, Michael?
You talked about purpose.
Yeah.
How do the people in your life affect that, push you and take you away from it?
So let me just make sure the questions are everyone hears. She talked about purpose, and what was the question?
How do people in your life bring you towards that or take you away from that?
Oh, how do people in your life take you away or get you closer to living your purpose?
That's good. Because we have so many different people coming into our lives, and we have different partners and friends that come in and out of our lives. Again, I think it's about when we draw people into us. So we draw people in that are helping us to raise us up and reflecting the best parts of ourselves. And we also draw people in, and sometimes they're our family members, that don't really raise us up, that kind of hold us down or pull us down. So, am I answering the question? I don't think so, but I think that like, when you're with someone and you feel lit up with them, whether it's your partner, your friend, or coworker, anyone that you meet, they're helping to keep you on point for your purpose, I believe. Like when you meet people that you feel good, you go and you're like, oh my God, I feel good around that person, because they're reflecting back to you the best parts of yourself. That is helping you stay on purpose. And then we all know people like, that take us away from our purpose, but that's not their fault. It's our mismanagement, our choices about staying on point for our purpose. I hope that answered the question.
Can I answer that? Because I also think you listen really well to what people are saying.
Mm.
And not that you take their direction all the time, but you listen and then you decide how that could be used if that's useful to you. Does that make sense
Yeah,
to you?
right.
I think you're a great listener. And I
Mm.
think that helps you with
Thank you. And does it feel right for me? Because people can give you great advice, it's great advice for them, but it might not be right for you.
So you don't always take it as advice, but you listen to it.
Yes, yeah.
But
And then
really,
you decide what to do with it. If you
Right.
listen.
for those in the back, Denise is saying Libby's a fantastic listener. And as a listener, am I correct, you're saying that she can choose who's moving her towards her purpose or away from her purpose. And listening is something that's not the most common skill, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I know bringing people into your life, moving away from, moving towards, I'd like to think that you helped us move all towards our purpose tonight. So thank you, Libby Moore, for being here.
Thank you.
Let's keep going. So we can talk, on the table there are accountability cards. And I didn't ask you, and this just feels right, so I'm just gonna say it. So fill out the accountability cards before we end tonight, which we're about to end. Number one, if you want to get on the mailing list for the show, put your email address. But also, we're asking you, what do you want to be held accountable for? And what I'd love to do is share with you what the cards are, and maybe you'll help me, like, later this month, you'll take a look at some of the accountability cards and help me respond to them.
Yeah.
Because we hold our audience accountable for what's on that card.
Oh, nice.
So maybe you'd want to join me in holding some of our guests accountable. So fill out on the card what you want to be held accountable for. Sarah and Christina in the back will help you with that. I would very much just like to thank, well, I don't have it on me, but I'd like to thank a few people. Number one, my wife, Lauren Foreman, who none of this would be possible without the support of someone helping you go towards your purpose. My amazing team of lawyers, of you, Richie in the back, Christina Del Mar, and Sarah Seacrest in the house. Also, Hillary at the bar and Brett from LPR for making this possible. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to our role models, Denise, Mark, and Libby. See you at the next Legacy Show. Check out David.